I think the whole thing about the assassination of the Congressman Leo Ryan proves that the federal government, the FBI, is a joke because you had a United States congressman, the only congressman that ever was murdered, that ever died while on the line of duty, was murdered at Port Kaituma Airport in Guyana. Now, Guyana is the only English speaking country in South America. Over 90% of the population lives on the coast. Georgetown, the other little coastal towns. The interior is inhabited by the Indians, the South American Indians, um, Jesuit missionaries, and at this time also the Nazis coming back from Project Paperclip. The Nazis, like there was a film called The Boys from Brazil, and it was released in 1978, the same year the Jonestown thing happened. And in the movie, they showed the Nazis and Hitler in Brazil. Well, that's the same jungle as Guyana, Amazonian rainforest. So the Nazis were camped out within around Jonestown, and they were involved with Jim Jones and the People's Temple. The land that Jim Jones had got for his flock, his temple, was needed. They needed the the Guyanese wanted Americans there because the Venezuelans were threatening to invade the land, and there was gold stored in the area from mining companies going back to the 40s, worked by the Blakey family. In 1966, the British lost control. It was British Guiana. Now it's just Guyana. So in 1966, the British lost control. That's why the CIA got Jonestown in there. Also, you had Hilltown. Now, when it came to Jim Jones, it was a commerce point. Jonestown was a commerce point, and they did a lot of trading there. And Jim Jones, see, Jim Jones was doing experiments on those people. They had brought the majority of those people down there in 1977. The People's Temple was involved in political assassinations. Um, like in Brazil, people speak Portuguese. In Angola, people speak Portuguese. So they were bringing black Brazilians from Brazil to Angola to fight in the Angola War, the Gold War. This had to do with the Tamara Airport and a lot of stuff the CIA had going back in the 70s. Um, if you watch that documentary about Frank Turple, the most dangerous man alive, you can see Frank Turple was involved with Idi Amin. That was his right hand man. And Jim Jones was involved with Idi Amin through Frank Turple. And this gets into the Turple Galen connection. Reinhard Galen was running a great faction of the CIA, and he was a former Nazi. And so Galen and Frank Turple worked on a lot of stuff together. And that's what was going on in Jonestown. It was the Galen Turple ordeal with Jim Jones. And the real Jim Jones got out. The real Jim Jones, and back in the 60s, you had the real Jim Jones, and he had a double. And they both shared the same passport. So, like in the movie Guy in a Crime of the Century, you see how at the end there was the actor, then another look-alike that looked more like Jim Jones than the actor. In real life, there was two Joneses: the one in the pavilion, and the one in one of the cottages. And so, the Green Berets, through Frank Turple and through some of the other liaisons in the CIA, other mercenary groups came down there to wipe everybody out. And like Lieutenant Bo Gritz, who was head of all special forces in '78, said that the Green Berets were definitely in Jonestown. He talked about that in his book called To Serve, and he mentioned it at other points. So, if the head of all special forces in Latin America in 1978 said the Green Berets were in Jonestown, there's a really good chance they were there. So, then you had the Black Watch troops, the British Black Watch troops, but they killed those people down there, and they were doing experiments on those people. putting putting all kinds of drugs in their food. They were altering their DNA. They might have been testing HIV on the people. And when the congressman went down there, they didn't want those people to leave Jonestown. It was an experiment, and they were terrified that the truth was going to get out. So they murdered the congressman and then killed all the people. And a lot of the people went to Venezuela and other places um, to get away. And like Tim and Mike Carter are running through the jungle with all those suitcases full of jewelry and whatnot. You know, people, they murdered these people. And the federal government, the FBI, covered it up. The file for Jonestown is called Rumor, RYMUR, Rumor. And the Fed set the whole thing up and made it look like the real Jim Jones died down there. And the real Jim Jones got out hours before. In Leslie Wagner Wilson's book, Slavery of Faith, she mentioned the gold. How Forbes Burnham and his gold mining companies and Chase Manhattan Bank, which is on audio files of Dr. Peter Better, they took all the gold in the caves and hid it out by Port Kaituma and Matthews Ridge and whatnot. Robert Kelvey, the man who they found hanging, this is around the time in 1978 when the Vatican went bankrupt with gold. They lost a bunch of money and they needed a reimbursement, so they used the Jonestown gold and brought it to the Vatican and to New York. So there's a lot of history I got on Jonestown. And I explained Richard Dwyer had a body double, because there's that whole mystery about what happened to the double at Port Kaituma and what happened to the Jones double. I mean, what happened to the Dwyer in Jonestown and the Dwyer at Port Kaituma. Well, the one at Port Kaituma was a double. The real Dwyer was in Jonestown. Okay? And so I just think it's kind of strange how the real Jim Jones was not there. And they killed all these people. And all this corruption in the government went on. And this is years later and people don't even know it. People have been sitting there on the History Channel watching a fake body double for years and don't even know. All you gotta do is look at the ears. Go on Google and type in Jim Jones body doubles and go to images and you can see my diagram where I show people it's not the same man. See? So, I don't know how it is that I don't even have a high school diploma and I can sit here and explain how the federal government murdered a congressman and covered everything up and let the culprit get away. And all the PhDs out there write books about Jonestown, knows anything about it. I'm just walking the streets. I just walk around. I go to my buddy's house and drink beer and sit there and laugh about it. Just laugh about the FBI. Laugh about the whole thing. Fuck them.